Colin, did you have a chance to look at the minutes, and Cheryl also? Yeah. Any
I
corrections?
have to abstain because I missed the last meeting.
Okay. Colin, did you have any corrections or
I don't have any
additions?
corrections, and I'm happy to move to approve the minutes.
I will second the motion, and then we will both vote aye, and then Cheryl will abstain. Okay, great. And now I think we should, if it's okay with everybody, reorder the agenda slightly so that we go through, just swap items 6 and 5 so that we can do the Norwalk High Ed specs last. I think that's going to take up the most time, but I think we can go through everything else pretty quickly. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, great. So let's do the Silver Mine first. Do we have anything to look at? Do we have anything that we want to talk about?
Sure, I can take this one. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, you're a little bit glitchy, but yes.
Okay. All right, so what you have in front of you is the famous Ed specs, only this time it's for the Silver Mine asbestos removal project. Very similar to Cranberry we did a couple of years ago, and I believe Rowayton, we need to, as per the asbestos management plan, begin to remove the vinyl asbestos floor tile that's lining just about every classroom. Quite a bit of it has come loose, but it's contained, it's non-friable. Yet if we do not begin a removal process, it will obviously get worse. So we've been approved for roughly $500,000 from the Common Council during the last go-around of the capital budget, and we want to plan this coming summer. In order to do so, we have to submit a Ed spec and apply for a grant, and that is done any month. It's a non-priority project between the 1st and the 10th of any month. So this is the first step to present to you the Ed spec for the asbestos tile removal process at Silver Mine. I do want to note that it also includes a replacement of vinyl composite tile, which obviously you can't keep the floor bare. So this is the Ed spec that's in front of you tonight.
Okay, thanks, Bill. And just for the benefit of members of the public who I know have an
Frank,
interest
do you want
in...
to go to the next agenda topic if there's no questions?
I just wanted to ask, just to clarify for members of the public, that there's, in your opinion, no significant ways in which this would deviate from a regular asbestos abatement project. There's nothing, there's no question marks or curveballs or things that would come up that would be, it's just regular. Are you frozen there, Bill? Bill's frozen.
No, no, I don't believe so. Am I? No, I don't believe there are. This is a straightforward project, and as you walk the classrooms at Silver Mine, there's a noticeable work that needs to be done.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bill.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Your audio is a bit glitchy, and your video is frozen.
Yeah, you seem to have a pretty bad connection for some reason.
Oh. I'm gonna hang up and dial in from the phone.
Okie doke. Sounds good. Okie doke.
Sarah, do you want to move on to the next agenda item, or wait for Bill to return?
Well, I think we can just, we can move to approve that. I think we have to have the motion as a committee. So I think that's fine, unless Colin or Cheryl, if you have any questions about that one. Do you? Okay, can I have a motion? Oh, Hi, Sherelle. What?
Hi. I'm turning it down. Is that better?
Yes.
I don't have any questions. It seems very straightforward.
Okay, great. So let's have a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll
Have a
second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Sherelle?
Aye.
Okay, great. That's unanimous. Ooh, we're having a fun one tonight. Okay. So Bill is going to talk us through the Jefferson, or is someone else going to? We can move forward if we have the ability to do so, I think.
I actually think Jim would be presenting.
Great.
Well, actually, I was going to hold it. I was going to hand it off to Mike Fienza,
Okay.
who's been managing the Jefferson project until I guess Bill gets back in touch with us.
Okay,
Uh,
great.
and
I
can you
think
hear me
that is
now?
Bill. We
Yes.
sure can, Bill.
Yes.
Yes. I last heard, Sarah, that you had asked about, is there anything else to this if the public has any questions? Is that where I left it?
Well, we heard you say that it was straightforward, and so we moved to approve it, and we're all set.
Oh, thank you. I'll listen in.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Bill.
Thank
Okey
you.
doke. Jim, what were you saying?
Did we want to go to the Jefferson plans and estimate?
That would be great.
Everyone should have received a link to the drawings for their viewing prior to the meeting, as well as a copy in PDF of the estimate for the project. And joining us is the design team who crafted the plans and specifications for the project, Lisa Yates and Mike Lasasso from Antonazzi Associates. So we've created a short presentation just with the highlights of the drawing set for the committee to view tonight.
Great.
So just to give you a little bit of a background, I'm sorry to interrupt. I know I said Mike was going to take this, but I just can't help myself. This is a requirement of the state that we have the Board of Ed as well as the building committee, or in this case, in the case of Norwalk, the land use committee, sign off on a form called the SCG 042 that you've seen the drawings, you've seen the specifications and the estimate, and that you're okay with moving forward with having the state do their review to give the construction manager or the city, I should say, the authority to go out to bid on this project. So it's a standard procedure, a step in the process, and I'll turn it over to Antonazzi.
Okay, so and Mike, you're ready for us. We'll do the run through the drawings. Mike, I'm Lisa Yates from Antonazzi. Mike Lasasso is here with me. Mike, you wanted to kick this off?
Sorry, I was having trouble. Are you able to hear my audio?
Yep.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Just a quick introduction. We're very happy to be at this milestone. It's the point in the project that concludes the lion's share of the effort that our team has generated. Lisa and our in-house team and our consultant team have pulled together a complete set of construction documents supported with specifications. And so this is a project that you've seen in the past, and so we'd like to just recap some of the aspects of it as part of today's meeting. So I guess, Lisa, if you could advance to the next slide, please. This is the existing conditions site plan from the project set. The orientation of the plan is such that west is to the top of the page. Van Buren Avenue runs along the southern boundary, and we have the building proper in the center. As you're probably aware, the two portable structures will be removed as part of our project. And we'll be developing the existing building with an addition to the rear or upper level and infilling with classrooms at the lower level. And then Lisa, if you could go to the next slide. So this represents this is actually the landscape plan from the construction documents, and we think it probably best illustrates the improvements that we're anticipating on the exterior of the site. The parking lot to the south has been activated as a parent drop-off, and it's a means of separating the parent traffic from the upper level where we have the bus drive. As you're aware, there's 3 stories associated with the building. We've moved the main entrance, and Lisa will be discussing the administrative offices down on the first level for security's sake. There's a host of site enhancements, things to do with control and storage and detention of water systems. There's additional plantings that you can see clearly, age-appropriate play structures, both for the upper grades and also a specific one for the younger grade and the lower level. I don't want to talk too much about the interior. That's what Lisa will actually focus on. But the breakout of the grades is such that the youngest students are at the lower level, and that was by design and also by code. It's supported by the parent drop-off, and the parents can actually bring their kids very close to the main entrance now, and they can access the lower level classrooms without having to navigate stairways. I think unless there's questions about the site development, we'll just continue on with the building development.
I already hit it because there's a little delay, but
So Lisa, if you'd like to continue.
absolutely. So these isometric drawings that we're including are from our model. They're not part of the construction documents, but we feel like they help you sort of sum up the building quickly, since we're not showing you 183 pages of construction documents. Everything in green here represents the new portions of construction. So we have this infill area where previously cars could drive underneath the building, which is a security issue. The main entrance is where it currently is. When we get into the plans, we can show you again. The admin wing is right inside the building, which is also helpful for security. This new addition at the upper level is the gymnasium. And there's a new entrance which fronts the bus loop in the back. And the next slide just spins you around. So this is north. Van Buren is over here. The upper level is back here. So I think a long time ago when we showed you this, there were windows back here, which we eliminated based on your feedback. This is the current cafeteria multi-purpose space, which we're going to offload the gym function and put it over here. And I'll take you through the plans. So this is our first floor plan. So you can see here, this is the new area. And we looked at the first floor is slightly different than the upper levels, but in general, we tried to organize this building simply in a way that supports future flexibility by making the classrooms similar to each other where we could. So you come in the front door here. This is a hardened entrance over here on the left with ballistic glass, and there's a way to get straight into the office from there after you're properly buzzed in, again, all ballistic. And then after you're processed in the main office, you can go into the building if you are permitted. There's a conference room right by the front door. We have some other administrative offices in this area, the psychologist, counselor, the nurse is here. Our pre-kindergarten spaces are back here, and by code, they're required to have exits to grade, so we have those. We have 2 kindergarten classrooms here. These all have toilets, which are accessed from the rooms, and they're, low kid toilets. The last kindergarten space is over here. Then we have the first grade wing over here with toilet rooms close by, but separated And the first grade kind of has a little nook with doors that can close, so it sort of helps the grade-wide sort of community feeling. And this is what this looks like axonometrically again. So the green is the area that's addition, and our pre-K, our kindergarten, this is the entrance, admin, kindergarten, and first grade. Going upstairs to the second floor, we have the second grade is on one side and the third grade is on the other side. And this is where the classrooms start to get more modular. We have a specialty art classroom on this floor. Upstairs, it's science. We have 4 resource classrooms. And we designed this so there's not a whole lot going on in this wall. Just, I think we have power and that's it. And that's so that if you ever change the use of the school or the demographics change, these 2 can be turned into classrooms that look more like the rest. This is our music classroom. Faculty dining is over here. We have an all new kitchen and servery going in the same basic location as the last one. And we're maintaining the stage, adding a handicap lift. And this is, the cafeteria, and also it'll serve as the building's auditorium. And then this is what this looks like. So again, we're not adding anything new to the footprint on the second floor. It's just second grade, third grade, cafetorium, music. And then this is our upper level. These units repeat here in the hexagons. So we have 4th grade on this side and 5th grade on this side. They are slightly different in that, as soon as we got upstairs, the counters got a little higher and the toilets got a little bit higher. This space is not accessed from this floor. It's a double height space. This is our new entrance from the bus loop. So this will be used for, in the daytime, there's a gate to the bus loop driveway so that this functions as a sort of a park-like recess area in the daytime. And the building is designed so that if the door is locked into the stair, this area can be easily cordoned off from the rest of the school with the gym. And show you that. And this is, you can see the new addition is up here. And then this floor plate is much like the one below, except instead of the music room is below, the library is above, and a makerspace, and this is science in this corner and art is below that. And then this is the roof plan. I'll just spin you through these quickly. These are our typical elevations. So this is the front facing Van Buren. I actually think you can sort of see these better in the isometrics, which is why we shared them. This side is hard to see. This is the south side. I mean, it's physically hard to see when you're there because there are trees in a property line close by. This is the side on Grandview. And then this is what you see from the upper terrace from the park area. And very quickly, these are a couple of sections. So we're taking slices through the building. And this one is at the south end. So we're cutting through the gymnasium. This is the stair at the far south end, classroom space over here. This section here cuts through the lower level entrance down here and the upper level entrance here. And there's a stair that connects the two. And more building sections. I won't actually dwell on these. I think they're, this one cuts through the cafetorium and shows you the library above the music room, classrooms. And then this one cuts the other way so you can see the relationship between the gym and the cafetorium. And that is our package.
Jim, Jim, could you go over real quickly the student count for this school and schedule and the total project cost? You gotta mute yourself. Jimmy, you gotta mute yourself. Oh. Jim, you gotta unmute yourself.
Muted.
Okay.
My apologies. Ellen, you're kind of putting me on the spot here.
Okay.
I was hoping Mike was
Yeah.
available for this, but I think
Yeah.
the student count is the
Yeah.
student count 437?
438.
438. And the overall project budget?
Yeah, is it like $35 million?
Do you want me to go through it, Alan, or?
No, just what's the overall project budget?
33,355,000.
Okay, thank you.
And is
And
the
we-
project estimate within the available budget at this point, Mike?
Yes, it is.
Is there, how much of a contingency is built in there?
It's about 4% right now.
And that's about where you would want it at this point, or is that high or is that low?
It's about where we would want it.
Okay, great.
And the other thing is, currently, I guess, part of Silver Mine's in there now for the during COVID. So our plan is go out to bid, go out to state approval early December, I guess, in a couple of weeks, I guess, early December. And then assuming that we got approved from the state to go out to bid, we go out to bid in the winter time. And I believe we're going to, assume the bids come out within our budget, we will go through the approval process. And our plan is to actually, with the understanding that Silver Mine is still going to be in there for the spring semester, our thoughts are we are thinking to start the construction, the back portion, the upper portion, by removing the portables and start construction of the gym without impact on the operation of the building. That will gain us a couple of months in terms for construction, to finish it. Because originally we were going to have the building already, but since the COVID, we do not have access to the building, so it delayed us a little bit. So by doing this, we can recapture some time. So potentially we would start construction maybe late March or something like that, Jim. Is that right?
Yep, yes, that's right.
Yep.
And then our plan is that we would finish the project in about by August of 2022. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, so that's the schedule, and this is all based on premise that there will be no student in the school by September next year. There's no summer program and no fall semesters, and we will have the building for the two semester after that. And then after that, Jefferson kids will move back, and the Lower Pona School will be available as the new STEAM school for the district. That's it for me.
That's great. Thanks. Colin or Sherelle, do you have any questions? I feel like when we went through the initial look at the specs, however long ago that was, a million years ago, the questions that were asked and answered and seem to have been addressed in this iteration. And so do you guys have anything that you wanted to add or ask?
I was just going to observe that I really appreciate the thorough attention to detail and the responding to our feedback. So yeah, it looks good to me.
Sarah, sorry to interrupt you. I don't know whether we want to talk about a little bit of the solar for this project. I mentioned the last meeting to the committee.
Sure.
About
that would be great. We actually have a public comment that has an interest in that. So yes, please.
Yeah, I'm not sure that should be part. I guess the committee could approve this and refer to the board, and we can talk about solar as a separate topic.
No, you can talk about it now.
Okay. So again, last time we talked about it. Again, for all our major school construction projects, this one, complete renovation, rooftop photovoltaic system are standard in terms of our planning process and design process and construction process. Because the city go for this power purchase agreement, basically the city is the leasing of the equipment, and a solar vendor will come in, install it, and do a long-term lease, and typically 20 years. And the way we are setting this up is that it's actually a lease between the Board of Education, the district, and the vendor, because there's an operating cost and maintenance service requirements and stuff that's for the next 20 years. So instead of city getting involved in operating your building, I thought that it's better that the lease is managed, and also the payment go through Board of Ed, because your utility costs will be reduced, and therefore there's a payment need to be made to the solar company. So generally speaking, all our project, again, I'm repeating myself a little, generally speaking, all our building has, we have every intention to do a rooftop system on all the buildings. And the final agreement is need to be executed between the board and the vendor. So similar to, based on that premise, this building is, we will design everything out. We're working with the vendor to make sure all the conduits in place and stuff like that. And the electrical room has space in it for the transfer switch and all the equipment that's required for the solar system. That's the end. That generally speaking is the end of the city's involvement in terms of getting the building ready for rooftop system. Similarly, Ponus, that's what we did. We got all the conduits in place and all that. And thereafter, it's up to the Board of Education to execute the power purchase agreement with the vendor and to implement the project. And the city side, generally speaking, it's not in the picture anymore. So we have the capital responsibility, and then we move on. On this property, we have a discussion about potentially doing solar carport. Generally speaking, it's because it requires a freestanding structure supported steel construction and more than just a rack system on top of a roof, and foundation that require and a conduit run into the building. It's a more expensive way of providing solar system. So last time we met, we talked about the cost of it and the financial perspective of it. And then I think Tom, were you able to send some information out to the board members?
Yes, I sent that to the facilities committee members after the last meeting.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, because I didn't look at it for last month or so. But I believe it's like the 20 years, and the payback in 20 years about like $26,000 or something like that. And the rooftop system generally about $200,000 worth of savings. So, but the carport system, it's substantially to the point that it's financially, it's not, and when you figure present value to the money, it really isn't, it's generally speaking, we break even. So I don't want to comment anymore, but it's just so at some point we need to decide we're going to do this or not. The reason being is that, I mean, these drawings, I believe we have some notes in here saying that the city may potentially put in a system in, and it's this area on the left hand, on the drawing on the lower left hand corner in the middle of the parking spaces. That's where the systems will go in. And it's also the location of our water detention system. So it gets a little complicated in terms of it's very doable, but at the same time it's require more design and adjustment into the system to accommodate the foundation for the system. The system design, the structure designed high enough that the snow, because city plows snow without dump trucks, so it had to be designed high enough that the trucks can go underneath. Because if you don't, because the drive is so narrow, there's potentially hitting it. So we designed this stuff high enough that you can actually power right through the bottom. It has lighting system underneath the canopy, as well as there's a snow guards on it, so that snow doesn't fall on top of the cars and go whatever icicles and stuff like that. So those are provisions which drive the cost higher than a typical rooftop system. So again, I would prefer we get an understanding whether the board is interested in doing this or not, because then we got to incorporate those requirements into these drawings at the future time, as well as because typically the vendor will put in the foundation and stuff, but because we don't want to finish this project and they come and rip up the parking lot. So we have to, there's some substantial coordination between us and the vendor that we have to work out some financial arrangement and construction phasing so that we can have, we would put in a foundation for them and then they come in to put the upper structure in afterward. So there are some work that needs to be done if we do decide to go ahead with putting the system in. The one last thing on this, on the carport, the city does not have a system anywhere in the city. City doesn't own a system, but all places we thought that if any place we're going to do it, this would be a good place because it fronts on Route 7 or Van Buren, so it's more a public street. It's not a residential street facing some residential homes and stuff like that. It's also very visible. It would be a pilot program for us. But at the same time, is that the cost is hard to. There's no significant savings from this project. So I think I'm gonna end with that.
Okay. I think cost benefit analysis, when you're talking about measures that are like pollution reducing or things like that, it's not, I mean, it's not only the financial piece that is the savings that's realized, but I don't know, do you need us to make a decision about whether or not we want to do that in the course of approving these this evening, or we don't have to decide yet?
I think I think I need Jim's input on this. Does it matter to us? I mean, in perfect world, yes, but at the same time, you want to think about a little more. I think we should be okay, but I think the way we submitted this, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong. So we submitted the state with the understanding that we may do it, but they don't really evaluate it, right?
Well, it's not part of the project.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not asking for reimbursement from the state on it. It's going to be done separate from the project. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing we have to do at some point in the future, we have to decide, because we're going to go a bit as is, but if we do decide to put that system, we got to change the design a little bit. So so again, we'll
Understood.
If we don't make a decision, we'll bid the way it is without it. But at some point in the future that we do decide, we have to make that decision in time so that we can make those design changes. So it's not a construction change.
I understand.
Okay.
So why don't
We
we?
don't have to make it.
Got you. Why don't we move to approve these, and then?
Sarah, can I just ask a quick question?
Of course.
So I heard at some point there was I think roughly $26,000 saving, but then I heard in another breath that there was no cost benefit. So I'm a little confused, or maybe I missed something.
Yeah, what I sent out, we had the discussion at the last facilities committee meeting, and then I sent out some analysis that we had prepared, and it's not a, it's not a situation where we can give you an ironclad guarantee of what the savings or cost is, because it's all based on assumptions about how much electricity prices are going to rise over the next 20 years. So, you've got to make some estimates and then, look at your results as a result of those estimates. But the, actual rise in electricity cost or change in price of electricity cost could vary from those estimates in any event. So I had run two scenarios, one at a 1.5% annual escalation in electricity cost, and one at a 2.5% annual escalation in electricity costs. And under both scenarios, for the first several years, in one case it's the first 7 years, and in the other case it's the first 11 years, there is a projected additional cost, because the amount you're going to pay for the solar power in this case is more than the current cost that we're paying for electricity. But then we project that at some point in the future, 8 to 12 years from now, that flip-flops, and then you start saving money, such that over a 20-year period, you could potentially have a loss of, or cost you an extra $4,200, or may have saved you $46,000. And then I translated those numbers into present value calculations, which is basically the notion that $1 today is worth more than $1 in the future because of inflation and just the fact that having the money available today is worth more to you now than it is in the future. So after you discount for present value, you come up with a range from a negative $8,100 to a positive $29,900. So I think that when somebody referred to 26,000, I think they were
I
actually,
meant 20, yeah.
it was actually the 29,000. So that's my best estimate of the range, is negative 8,000 to positive 30,000, say, and it could be anywhere between there, or it could be higher or lower than those numbers. But I guess the point is, compared to the rooftop unit, which has a savings of over $200,000 over that same 20-year period, this is more marginal from a financial standpoint. So if you're looking at it just from a financial perspective, and again, you don't have to look at it just from a financial perspective, you can also look at the other benefits, and if you want to make a decision on that basis, that certainly is fine. But if you're looking at it just from a financial perspective, it doesn't have a huge return on investment.
And one last thing, I just want to note that if you read the performer, we actually, because we're actually, from oil prices wise, we are kind of unique in a very unique period when oil prices dropped so much in the last year and a half or so. And the electric prices are holding. So what we did is on the projection, the first 3 years, we consider there's no increase based on the current rates. That was like 7 cents a kilowatt or something, or 11, or whatever it is, 11 cents a kilowatt or whatever it is. So we actually keep it as no increase of 3 years, and then the escalation starts after that, right?
Right, that's correct.
Okay, so do you think it would be fair to say, though, that although there doesn't seem to be significant savings that could be realized, that it seems sort of functionally neutral in just financial terms?
I think that's fair.
Okay, so I think that's a helpful way to look at it. Okay, so just because I know we have a lot to discuss remaining, let's move to approve these. Can I have a motion to approve these?
So moved.
Thanks, Colin. And a second. I'll second it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Don't know. Sherelle?
I'm sorry, I didn't realize my camera wasn't on.
That's okay. No worries.
Aye.
Got it. Okay, so that passes unanimously. Thank you so much. And now we have swapped 2 agenda items. So we have the Cranberry Committee, and that's just a discussion of who we would like as a board representative to that committee. Is that right? Alan, I think you're muted if you're talking.
Yeah, we are looking to set up a building advisory committee for Cranberry School. And we typically do, there's a very specific guidelines in the city ordinance, but it's not unusual that we don't really deviate from it. We still meet those guidelines, generally speaking, but we do it for depending on the size of the project and what's involved. So what we're looking for, we will have 1 member of Common Council, 1 member from the Board of Education, the principal, and what we're also looking for, it's 1 administrator from the board, from the district, and so as a point of contact for us, and also parents. I assume that there's a PTO and there's also a governance council. So we have 1 representative for each group, and that would make up the building advisory committee. So, okay. I mean, the committee's responsibility, there's no power that's associated with it, but the committee will actually help to report, the board member will report back to the board for information, and then the council member will report to whatever. And they will give us the opportunity to work together to look at, like, placement of buildings and drop off area and all the things that we need input on. And also with the parents' input, they can bring the items back to the respective parent groups. So there's a dialogue, there's a relationship that we continue to establish during design and program phases of the project. So. Got it.
So in terms of information that you would like from us this evening, it's just that you would like one of us as a board member to be the liaison to this committee?
Yes.
Okay. And Colin and Sherelle, both of you had said that you would be interested. I don't remember, and I apologize.
I think it was Colin.
Colin, do you still want to do it?
First of all, I think it was Barbara.
Oh, no. Okay.
She's not here.
But
She's not.
in her absence, I'm happy to volunteer.
Bam, it's you.
Okay.
Gavel,
Thank you,
gavel.
Colin.
Okay, great.
Thank
So
you.
then, if that concludes that agenda item, I think we should move on to the Norwalk High piece because that's going to require a bit of discussion this evening. So, who would like to crack that egg open?
Well, I could open and say a few things and then ask Jim and Alan and Tom to weigh in. So this has been, a process that has really moved quickly from the time that the idea got firmed up. We had several discussions in Hartford with Costas Diamantis and Senator Duff, former Superintendent Adamowski, Alan, Jim, myself, Tom, and Mayor had attended those meetings. And over the course of several meetings, we came to the conclusion that spending additional funds to kind of rehabilitate Norwalk High School would not be in the best interest of the city. And so the concept was to create a new campus with a P-Tech school, an arts academy, and then the comprehensive high school. The development of the design specs began shortly after those fall conversations in 2019. And the board approved a set of design specs back in February of 2020. What we're going to be discussing tonight are a set of revised educational specs based upon some changes in what we anticipated for state level funding for this project and what was actually approved at the state legislature. So the original project was earmarked for about a $225 million project. When the legislation was passed, it was passed at a $189 million project. So a sizable decrease in the total amount of funds allocated for this particular project. Our original design specs were designed around a school that would require the $225 million cost. So some significant adjustments have had to be made. Both Jim and Alan have been really terrific in working with myself and other members at central office to pare down the original project costs to get it in line with the $189 million. We've had to make some difficult decisions, and we want to speak to you tonight genuinely about trying to balance the needs of the P-Tech program as well as the Arts Academy and the original intent of having a robust Arts Academy program within that comprehensive campus, while being able to design for a state-of-the-art comprehensive Norwalk High School. And then one particular piece to this that I think Alan or Jim can speak to is this a piece about the pool. And this is a considerable cost to build a school swimming pool. And Jim can speak to whether or not that is still a typical thing for a public school to include in a comprehensive high school. The superintendent's not on the call, but I think I can speak for her in saying that there's a real desire to have a swimming pool in the city of Norwalk for our kids. And while we say that, we also realize that there are some significant, costs that come with building a pool. And that could impact the square footage of the rest of the plant and overall project. So that's kind of the 30,000 square foot view. I've worked pretty closely with Alan and Jim to reduce some square footage. We were looking to try and reduce 20,000 square feet to get us closer to that $189 million project cost. The city will pay somewhere around $38 or $39 million that total cost because of the 80% reimbursement. And Jim can speak to the specifics, but I think we had gotten 7,000 or 8,000 additional square feet that we have been able to reduce from the original plan. Much of it in the arts area, some of it elsewhere. But Jim, if you could talk to the facilities committee a little bit more about, that fine balance that we've tried to carry on, so we're not taking away from one more than another, and trying to realize as much of the vision of this school as was the case back in October when we first conceived of it. That would be helpful.
Sure, absolutely.
And actually, sorry, Jim, just to jump in real quick, I just, if Evan, if you're still there, a constituent just reached out saying that the audio on YouTube is very difficult to hear. I don't know if we can do anything about that, but I just wanted to see if we could.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. And yeah, we have, Frank and I and Alan and Tom have, and others have been working very diligently since the creation of this project on EdSpecs and the program. So the EdSpecs, I guess, let me back up a little bit. When we learned that the budget was 189 million, I immediately gathered with my group. We had a consultant that did what we call a conceptual design back in December, January. And we had a consultant do a professional cost estimate, which is required as part of the grant application process. So as soon as I learned that the budget was reduced down to 189 million, I immediately contacted them and said, okay, let's take a very close look at what we have and what are our opportunities to save money in certain areas. So one of the first things that we discovered is between the estimator and the construction manager, or the architect, I should say, we discovered that they were double counting some square foot area, unbeknownst to both of them. And then when we both got, when we got the whole team together, we recognized the fact that there was some additional square foot area that was being counted. So we reduced that. The other thing that we talked about was keeping the existing science wing. Since it was built in 2008, the structure is in very good shape. And we said, let's keep the science wing structure. There's 8 science classrooms in that building, and do a renovation to the interior, similar to what you would do, let's say a kitchen renovation, where we would go in there, keep the layout the same, however, change out, put in new science cabinets, new plumbing fixtures, new lighting, new ceilings, new flooring, paint, just kind of a plug and play type of situation. So that saved us money in new construction, as well as saved us money in demolition, because that was roughly around 16,000 square feet that we didn't have to demo. We did still incur costs because we are carrying money to do the interior renovation. We looked very closely at the unit costs that we were carrying, and were they in relation to bids that we have been receiving recently on projects in the Fairfield County area. So the estimator had just, or the construction manager, the estimator working for the construction manager, had just finished up some bids in the area, and he relooked at some of his some of his square foot numbers, and we were able to save some money there. The other thing that we looked at was some materials, roofing, facade, things of that nature. And we were able to reduce some of the costs with some savings on different types of materials. So we got down to a certain level, and we got as much as we could out of it. And we looked at, where can we save now on building? And, we struggled with that. So I reached out to Frank, and he came up with roughly just under 9,000 square feet of savings without taking out any program. I just want to make sure that everybody is clear on that. We did not remove wholly remove any rooms specific to any programs. We reduced some of the sizes of these rooms. I think it was a good effort between Frank and Jennifer Katona. She worked really hard on that as well, to be able to save some space on rooms. So we're able to save some square foot area there, which also reduces the cost. And then we said, look, this is not an easy project. It's somewhat complicated because it has to be done in phases. The existing high school has to remain in operation while we're constructing the new school. So we don't know a lot about, we did not do a lot of investigation as to, what's there, how does everything going to, really work together while we're constructing the building. So there may be savings there. So we said, look, why don't we put the pool as an ad alternate? We're going to design it. We're going to instruct the architect in the RFQ, RFP that we issue sometime, hopefully in January, should this get, we complete the grant application by December 31st, and say, okay, Mr. Architect, you are going to design this building with the pool. And as we move further along in the design and develop the design and have a better understanding of where we are, we'll develop cost estimates and find out where we are within those cost estimates. And that will give us a better opportunity to find even more savings, potentially even more savings. So let's say, we said it might be a good idea to use the pool as an ad alternate. And move forward that way and not wholeheartedly take it out of the project, but continue with the design of it. And as we refine the design and therefore refine the estimate, there may be an opportunity to add in the pool and get it constructed along with the high school. So we incorporated in the ed specs that you have, or that hopefully were sent out to you, and I've highlighted in yellow the areas that we reduced the square foot, based on specific rooms and based on the communications that we had with Frank and Jennifer. And then we added we made the pool as an ad alternate. So essentially the ed specs, we did add one thing that both Alan and I, that we had not talked to Frank about, that Alan and I felt was important based on our experience that we had over at Ponus, which was an auxiliary gym. We do know that Ponus was struggling with scheduling gym classes, at their school with just one gymnasium and having 1,050 students. So we did add in a gymnasium of 6,500 square feet. So all the savings that, I shouldn't say all, a good portion of the savings that Frank and Jennifer came up with, we put back into a auxiliary gym. And we still feel comfortable that we can stay within the 189, leaving the pool as a ad alternate. And again, we have not sacrificed any of the program. And now I'm going to say any of the program relative to the ed specs that were approved back in February. I do know there was some correspondence today regarding some misunderstanding between the P-TECH program and how the ed specs are today. But like I said, the ed specs are really exactly the same as they are or were in February when they were approved by the board, except for the reductions in square foot area. We did not take out any program area, just reduced some of the square footage, and we added the auxiliary gym.
We include some like shared use of space, kind of more maximize the user space. If some of the program uses like, you know, only like half a day kind of thing, we try to share the space together with another.
Yes, we did, you know, and that's where we were able to, yes, and that's why we were able to reduce some of the square footage. But we did not remove any rooms. We did not take out any programmatic specialty rooms.
Jim, you said that there was communication today, which I was following along with, and that it was a miscommunication in terms of like a perceived difference from the ed specs as we had approved them in February. Can you clarify that a little bit? Because, yeah, that's all. Just leave it there.
Yeah, and when the project first came about, one of the people that I first met with was Karen Amaker, and she was very responsive. I really liked working with her. And I gave her a copy of the ed specs that I had. So back up a little bit. When this project came about, I did an initial ed spec that the state took a look at and essentially kind of gave a nod and said, yeah, you're on the right track. I had to refine that ed spec because essentially I did it, you know, based on my previous experience with programs that were similar. So Karen was one of the first people that I engaged because obviously the P-TECH program was an essential part of the new Norwalk High School. And we exchanged emails. She sent over revised ed specs that had a certain number of classrooms. I think it was 24. And you know, we moved forward with that, with those ed specs. That was in early January. Around mid-January, you know, we were, you know, getting to the point where we needed to meet on a regular basis to finish the ed specs. And there was a group of us, myself, Alan, Frank, Tom Hamilton, Brenda Myers, and we also had the architects join us every Wednesday at 2 o'clock to review program, review overall square foot area, where we were, and also overall square foot area in relation to the amount of students that we have. So, you know, we met again, you know, for about 2 hours every Wednesday and kept refining the educational specifications and the space, because we had to get within a certain amount of space that the state allows for high school programs based on the enrollment. And as such, there were some cuts made to P-TECH program, as well as other programs, to get ourselves within the required space standards that the state has, as well as get the budget down. But more importantly, it was to get within the state's space standards. So, you know, we did not just go and say, okay, we can, you know, let's just knock off classrooms. What we did do is take a look at the enrollment relative to the number of classrooms. And not only did we take into account general classrooms, but we also took into account some of the science rooms, for instance, a biology lab, chemistry lab, physics lab, and applied science labs, because those are being used throughout the day as well, and also can be used as home rooms. So therefore, they are able to take capacity, student capacity. So doing a, you know, quick review of 500 students for P-TECH and, you know, what that looks like if we had every one of those 500 students in a classroom, we came up with, okay, we need, I believe, 21 classrooms, which we actually do have when you count the science rooms. So, you know, we felt okay, it's safe to get down to 16, it's tighter than they wanted. However, we felt that they still had enough space to accommodate all of their 500 students. Plus, they also have a 150 student lecture hall and some other ancillary spaces, resource rooms. However, those are not, we don't consider those classrooms. We did that exercise along with the core high school as well as the arts program. We went through that exercise to understand what we could do for capacity, what we needed for the number of classrooms relative to the capacity that they had to hold. We went through that with the understanding that P-TECH is its own program and will not interact with the core high school or the arts program other than for the cafeteria, gymnasium, and auditorium. So that's really, I guess, where we ended up. If Frank or Tom or Alan have any comments, if I'd left anything out,
Yeah, I think besides the 20 whatever classroom that we are looking at, I mean, during the day, the kids are also, like you said, going to the gym and the cafeteria. So at any time, you have potentially 500 kids in the P-TECH program. Some kids are actually using cafeteria and gyms. So you figure a 20-some classroom, each one between 20 to 24 kids in there, there's should be enough room to accommodate them. So, so it's more
I have a question. Sure. So I have actually two questions. And the intention behind both of them is sort of to do like a very, for the layperson, simple understanding of what the meaning of that all is. So number one, you said you went through that exercise with the arts and with the Norwalk High Gen Ed, core Norwalk High program, meaning that it's not just P-TECH that had this reduction in the number of classrooms. It's across the board that this happens. So there's not something inequitable happening relative to that program specifically?
Correct. Quite honestly,
Okay.
the amount of general classrooms that we started off with in Norwalk High School in the regular core program was, I believe, 79. And we were able to get it down to 55 and feel comfortable about that because, again, we have the science rooms. We have we have the arts program, arts rooms that can be used as, I don't want to say as general classrooms, but let's say, we use the term homerooms because if you're going to have, if you're going to have, let's say, a homeroom period, and I'm not sure if they do or not, but if you need to house all the students in all the programs in classrooms, you have enough classrooms to do that.
Okay. And then my other question is, relative to what is there at the physical plant now, is this a significant improvement in capacity for service delivery? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's roughly the same.
Okay.
Obviously, it'll probably feel different for the users, especially those who experience the current school relative to the new school, because it will be designed differently, laid out differently, more open, more natural light, and more open space. I don't see, and that's one of the things, we're not educators. We have a good understanding of how education works. However, we don't make these decisions in a vacuum. We make sure that we have good discussion with those who are going to be running the school or running the programs to make sure that they're comfortable with moving forward with the way it is. Again, we do have restrictions. The state imposes specific square foot area per student, and therefore, if you have 2,000 students, you're allowed so much square footage for a school, and that has to accommodate gymnasiums, auditoriums, bathrooms, hallways, stairwells, elevators. All that has to be incorporated.
Just to piggyback
Sure.
that last point that Jim made, in this new campus, there are a lot of spaces that are non-traditional that take up a lot of square footage. So the Arts Academy, for example, has a black box built into it. It has a 5,000 square foot band rehearsal room, large choral space. As Jim mentioned, P-TECH has the lecture hall that's built in for that particular program. So these are spaces that are not 900 square foot classrooms, and you can have fewer 900 square foot classrooms or 850 square foot classrooms when you build in these other specialized large spaces. They'll be beautiful, they'll be purposeful for the particular programs, but at the end of the day, the total square footage needs to equate to the 2,000 students that we're going to have on campus.
That makes
It
sense.
sounds like, oh, sorry, Sarah.
No, go ahead, Colin.
I was going to say, like, I mean, Sarah was asking earlier whether there would be a meaningfully improved setting for delivering instruction. And it sounds like with the addition of those non-traditional spaces, I mean, we're spending $189 million. I think I would like to know that we're getting something better than what we have now. So, to Sarah's question, can we say that after spending all this money, the end product will be better educationally, from a holistic standpoint, than what is there now?
And also, can I add to your question too? Because my question wants to be in that question. From the standpoint of the educators and the administrators that are going to be running these programs, will it be easier to deliver those programs in that space? Will it work better?
I think it would work better than what you have now, definitely, because you're very restricted. Even if you did renovations to that building, just by the construction of the building, it's very difficult to get what you need and get what you want. During the design process for this school, we're going to engage the educators and talk to them and find out what they want, just like we do on all the projects. We did it with Jefferson. We're doing it, or have done it with Cranberry, and we did it with Ponus, where we bring in, let's just say, for argument's sake, department heads, and they get information feedback from their cohorts, and we have a good discussion with the architect and come up with designs. Now, does everybody always get what they want? No. Unfortunately, it's you can't get everything. Some of the stuff is just not feasible. But do they get more of what they want or more of what they don't have now? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
On the question of engaging with community, I know we will continue to do that as we've done with other projects. And I know this took a lot of work to review and revise the specs to meet the new funding total. Were we able to have some kind of dialogue with the school, the different leaderships, like with the SGC or the school leadership, in making these revisions?
No, we did not. We have a very tight time frame to finalize the approval of these and get it to the state. We have a legislative due date of December 31st, and that's why we're here this evening. Hopefully to get these approved or get something approved to move forward to the full board, because there's a process that's involved with this grant application where the Board of Ed has to approve the ed specs, and then the following meeting, those minutes have to be approved where the ed specs were approved, and then those minutes also get uploaded to the state. So it is a cumbersome process, and that's why it takes time, because you only take action, at your meetings, one meeting a month. So that's why we're here. I don't think, quite honestly, and I know it seems rushed, but this process wasn't done in a couple of days. This process was done over about a week, 2 weeks, I think, actually. Where Frank and Jennifer Katona did have dialogue and went through. I got an email and then I got a follow-up email. It hasn't been rushed from that perspective. And I will say, Alan and I had challenged Frank about certain spaces, and we did not realize that Frank was a former principal of an arts academy. So, I'm scratching my head thinking, how does he know, about all these spaces? And he's very well versed in arts academy program.
That's awesome.
Yeah, back to Sarah's question. I mean, what do we gain? I mean, this program includes a arts academy, which is something we don't have in the district in Norwalk High School. So that is a substantial gain in terms of service and sort of programs for the school population. So yeah, I mean that's. And then P-TECH, I don't know how much space they have now and the space that we're providing in the future. What other space that we're adding to it? Jim probably knows better than I. Well, I don't know any of it, but Jim knows. I mean, I don't know. Do they have a lecture hall now?
They do not currently have a lecture hall now.
Yeah. So I mean, when you get down to it, I guess something really compared to what 400 kids that they have now, what they have compared to the 500 kids they will have, and what the additional spaces they would gain from that. So I think you will get down to that level. But on the 30,000 feet kind of thing, we are providing a arts academy, which has its own set of requirements and programs that we currently don't have. So.
And I want to say I definitely appreciate that, and I think a lot of people in the community appreciate what this can represent for our district. And I think part of at least my questioning is to make sure that there isn't the appearance, at least, of having those gains in the Arts Academy at the expense of our community at P-TECH.
Sure.
And so I appreciate your point, Jim, that this wasn't as rushed as it seems. And I think especially because of that, it would have been really helpful to reach out to the school community, at least to, even as a heads up, so that they didn't feel as blindsided as they seem to be.
For sure. And it's important, I think, to get to the root of what the perception is that's driving the objections that we were hearing today. Because from what it sounds like, so just upon reading the thread of emails, a cursory read, it would seem as if things were being taken away. From this discussion, it does not sound like things are being taken away.
Again,
on balance,
based on what was approved back on February 18th, we did not take any programmatic spaces away. We reduced the size of some of them, all in the arts program, and that's it.
Okay.
And on balance, there were classes that were removed from Norwalk High School that Jim alluded to. We were in the 70s and ended up somewhere in the mid to upper 50s. P-TECH lost some classes as well. So we tried to be equitable in reducing the overall square footage of the building without losing the spirit of each of those 3 independent locations in the building. And I think P-TECH has really laid out a clear vision for what that part of the building will look like. And it doesn't look ordinary as a high school would. The classrooms, ultimately the furniture, the lecture hall, the community college space suite will have more of a university feel.
Yeah, and that was important to them.
High school.
And we did not take any of that away. And quite honestly, that's one of the reasons why the lecture hall was incorporated into the program. Is it now affords the P-TECH program the ability to stay within their space. If I'm not mistaken, I do believe that they go to Norwalk Community College because of lecture halls or larger spaces. And we are providing those spaces in the P-TECH program in their new facility.
It's, just want to ask, I'm not that familiar, but size of the lecture hall is really based on one grade, right? It's 150 kids or so. Is that what it's based on?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Sherelle, do you have any questions? I'm interested to know if you do. You're muted, honey.
Sherelle, you're muted.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess I was just shocked that the schools had not been contacted. So, and so we're expected to approve this tonight?
So I think procedurally, were we to approve this tonight, it would go to the full board twice after that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, the full board is next week, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, it would go to the full board next week for approval. And I may have not been clear in my explanation regarding what the state requires. So let's assume that, excuse me, next week, the full board does approve the ed specs. The following meeting where the minutes of is it Tuesday? Next Tuesday's approval of these ed specs are complete. When they approve those minutes at the following meeting, those are the minutes that I need to submit to the state.
Okay.
It's a little confusing. I understand. I apologize for that. I'm not sure how I can explain it.
No. I think that's fine. So I just would like to know what questions we haven't asked. Do you know what I mean? Like, Frank, if you would put on your arts high school principal hat and tell me what questions we should be asking that we're not asking, that would be great.
Well, I think as this project moves along, we're going to need to further define what that Arts Academy will ultimately be. Just in the span of the past year or so, there have been different iterations. At one point, we considered it to be an inter-district magnet, an intra-district magnet, and more recently, just a robust arts program within a comprehensive high school. So I think the vision around what that arts program will be needs to really get defined. And I think we need the input from Norwalk High School to be able to answer that question. I think in terms of the facility itself, if we're not asked to further reduce this current design spec, I am still very comfortable with the facility within the arts. We did not eliminate the black box, which really becomes a hub for that arts culture, because you don't often fill a main stage theater for performances, but a black box can really provide for an intimate experience for a grade level or a particular art major. And it allows for not what you would conceive to be a performer, like a dancer or a musician, but also a creative writer or visual artist. That creates a venue for those sorts of student artists to exhibit what they've created and how they've thought about their work. So that's an example of something that just is a non-negotiable. the band program at Norwalk High School has such a storied history. It really is deserving of a space like the one that still remains in the existing design specs. It's not the size that was originally envisioned, but 5,000 square feet of space is an awful lot of space when it's primarily designed for a band program. And there are some other really great pieces to this arts program. Specialized ceramics room, multimedia studio slash space for that, a dark room for traditional photography. It has the components to be a really spectacular place for artists to really find themselves. And I'm proud of that still being in the design spec this far into this process where we've had to make the square footage reductions that we've had to make. And I think we could have done a better job communicating some of the late reductions that had to be made. I think if we had to do that again, we would have, just been more transparent about what needed to happen. Ultimately, we submitted this design spec and the state further reduced the scope of the project. So even after those reductions, which are unpopular, we had some more to cut, as Jim spoke about in detail. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does answer my question, or some of it. And so then what I would say is, what I often find frustrating about Norwalk as a district, I know it's not unique to us, is that different programs feel like they're competing with each other for resources. And it seems like that's sort of happening at the level of a building in this thought process right now. And so I'm wondering, number one, what we can do to help that not be happening. And number two, if it makes sense for us to move this forward to the full board while at the same time, in between now and when we discuss it as a full board, we solicit input from the constituents to come to us so that we can consider it. Does that seem like something that would make sense?
Yeah, so to your point, the second piece, I think that makes good sense. And whether it's possible to provisionally approve tonight's design specs under the understanding that we would be reaching out to Karen, Norwalk High School, and also keeping the arts leadership aware of where we're at, that a discussion like that would be helpful. To your first point, I think that really is, or that question, I think it's an important question that we really do need to fully understand and start to work to improve upon. And the new superintendent has made a good first effort at this by bringing the leadership together from P-TECH and Norwalk High School and creating a building council, which was commonplace in her district in New York City, where you had 2 or 3 schools or 4 schools living in one structure and needing to share resources, cafeteria, gymnasium, bell schedules, etc. And I think that over time that a process like that will be healthy for both communities, because we don't want it to be a community where we feel one benefits at the expense of the other. And I think sometimes that's the way it's understood and felt, and it doesn't need to be that way. And I don't blame the communities on that campus for that evolution. I think it's a lack of processes that help create the conversations and the dialogue to make it work. And I think that we're on the way to doing that.
Okay. So I feel like if it is possible for us to provisionally approve the design specs while we are intentionally reaching out for feedback from the building leadership and the SGCs and members of the community to email us and tell us what they are thinking. That seems to me like the best thing to do. I don't know, Colin and Sherelle, how you feel about that.
I think it's great. I'm just wondering about the time frame. Like, just say if people do have changes, then does that mess up the deadline? Because then they have to go back and recalibrate. So,
Well,
It's a fairly quick process. We have two documents. We have the Word document that I think, excuse me, Sherelle. You have the Word document that I think was issued in the packet, and then there's an Excel spreadsheet that does the calculations of the square foot area. So, as soon as we get and discuss any changes, it's fairly quick that we can implement those changes and see what the impact is on the overall project.
okay.
got it. Okay.
Colin, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, clearly, I appreciate again the shared agreement that that going forward, we want to make sure that that all the relevant voices are included in the conversation, and also I appreciate the time constraints. So if we approve this tonight and I understand the timing, then I would absolutely be in favor of being, as Sarah says, intentional about including the relevant voices. I just had a quick math question. Going back to the pool, what is the cost of what was the original projected cost of building the pool?
It's slightly over $8 million.
And so, and I know this is probably oversimplifying it, but when we initially approved this, thinking it would be reimbursed at 80% of 225, we assumed the city would be spending 45. Yes.
I believe so. Yeah.
Actually, the reimbursement is 50% of 80%, so it's actually 40%.
For the pool,
Which is what amount?
But I think Colin is referring to the overall project budget.
Right.
I'm just asking because if we're now calculating that we'd be paying 20% of 189, but we had originally thought we'd spend 45 anyway, couldn't we? I mean, if the difference is about $7 million, it seems to me that we would not necessarily be spending more than we originally thought if we went ahead with the pool in the plan, not just as an alternative, because that sounds dangerous to me.
That is a discussion and decision that really is outside of my purview.
Okie doke. Colin, that's an interesting point.
Yes, I don't know whose purview it is. It just seems like we were happy spending $45 million at the beginning of this project, and sad to see the state value it now at 189. But if it's important for us to have that pool, and I think it is, to me it makes sense to just say we would continue to at that 45, understanding that about 8 million of that would not be eligible for the 80%.
Right. Well, I don't know, that just threw my brain a little bit of a curveball.
I think by us including it as a we call it alternate item in part of the spec, it just we're buying some time to try to work out the financial side. Hopefully the number will look better than what we projected. At the same time, is that whether there's potential other resources we can tap into to help to fund the pool/school kind of thing. It does, but again, identify as a way to try to keep the submission to stay whole, that it has the pool in it, but it also gives us opportunity to continue to find financial option to make it work.
And so moving forward that way does not preclude
Right.
choosing. Got it. Okay. So that's fine. Okay. So I think our brains have gone in enough loops.
I'd like to make a
And
motion
I think I would like you to make a motion. Please do.
that we approve these Norwalk High revised ed specs and move it to the full board, understanding that we will continue to bring more of the building voices into this discussion.
I second your motion. All in favor? Okay, great. That was a really good discussion. And we also have one public comment that I'm going to read into the record from Diane Laricella. So let me just grab that for us all. Sorry, I'm pulling it up on my phone. I apologize. Okay, here we go. So please include the following comments into the record. Item 4, the Jefferson School design should have a more robust use of solar energy production in order to save precious tax dollars for use elsewhere in the school system. The staff is incorrect about the barriers to placing solar carports in both parking lots. Item 5, revised specs for Norwalk High School. No matter what you are told today, the new NHS building needs to have solar energy production designed into the earliest draft of design, and any architects hired must be able to accommodate. Item 6, the Cranberry School design presents a great opportunity for energy production on site, but only if the buildings include them at the beginning, and any architects hired must have the willingness and capability to accommodate in the form of passive solar and rooftop or ground-mounted solar to offset the energy costs for this building. Diane Laricella. That's our public comment. Don't think we have any more public comments. And with that, I think we can have a motion to adjourn. If anybody has nothing else.
I will
I
say.
motion to adjourn. And Colin seconds. All in favor of adjourning this meeting? Aye.
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 Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
I think this was a good discussion.
Appreciate it.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.